What's something you've only seen once in real life that you don't think you'll ever see again? I'll start. In Australia a few years ago, there was a dust storm that made pretty much everything outside a dark orange. The sunrise in the morning was a dark red, and I seriously considered it was the apocalypse until I saw dust-covered cars. It was apparently the worst in 70-ish years. It was a beautiful sight I may never see again. In India, I was waiting in a taxi outside a convenience store for my mum to finish her shopping, and I saw a guy come out of the store with a bottle of mango juice in his hand. He looked around to see that he wasn't being observed and then poured all the juice inside the fuel tank of a parked motorcycle nearby. He then left, cackling to himself. 2 miniature dachshunds chasing emus, yes more than one, all over the fields and finally cornering them and causing one to jump over a 5-foot fence in terror. Was hard to stop laughing long enough to call the dogs off. When sailing in the Mediterranean I once saw dolphins diving in our bow wave. Dolphins in the Med aren't that special and surfing bow waves isn't really exotic behavior for dolphins. But this was at night while we had really intense marine phosphorescence. I was on the foredeck to check our jib and then saw this pair of dolphins glowing and sparkling in a green light trailing phosphorus traces through the black water. The sight was so kitschy and looked so fake that if I had been presented with it in a movie I would have laughed at the ridiculously bad CGI. So you were basically looking at a real life Lisa Frank sticker. 300,000 Europeans chanting "Tear down the wall" at the end of the Wall concert in Berlin 1990 between when the wall came down and reunification. Never been hugged by so many people I couldn't understand ever. Being born in '82, I was still young when this happened, but somehow the event still managed to be ingrained into my brain as a momentous occasion. Shame I hadn't discovered Pink Floyd back then. Saw two identical mid-80s Chevrolets park outside a 7-Eleven within a few minutes of each other. When the two owners of the cars came outside, they each went to the wrong car and spent a good 30 seconds wondering why their keys suddenly didn't work. You have lived, my friend. Halley's Comet. I probably won't see it again, but I still hold out hope. I once saw a kid who was about 10 years old pushing a pram down the street whilst riding a unicycle. Oh, and I once saw a seagull fly straight into a lamppost. Not 5 minutes after I got kicked out of swim practice due to a thunderstorm, I got to see one of the lampposts by the pool get struck by lightning. Everyone changing in the locker rooms thought it was a gunshot. A coyote being hit by a pickup truck going 85 miles per hour on a highway. It exploded. The coyote, not the truck. I was driving down a 5-lane road on my way to work. 2 lanes in either direction and a turning lane. I turned a bend in the road and saw 2 cars in the turning lane that had hit each other, possibly seconds before I showed up. People were running away from both of the cars to either side of the road. There was a lot of smoke coming out of one. 30 seconds later one of them exploded. Only time I've ever seen a car explode in real life and I was a few hundred feet away. While rock climbing, I saw a guy free soloing the cliff. He was about 100 feet up when he fell. He somehow spun mid-fall and grabbed a branch from the only tree growing on the cliff. The tree bent with his weight and deposited him on a ledge. He lit a cigarette and down climbed. Free soloers are madmen. Fell 30 feet down between a mountain and a glacier. Saw the underside of melted back glacier that, probably, nobody had ever seen. Looked down into the abyss below. Climbed back out. A few years ago when I was in high school, we used to play ninja tag out in the woods at night. On this particular night, the fireflies had started to spawn. There were millions of them. The entire woods looked exactly like the scene from Avatar. I live in Michigan, so it was kind of uncommon to see so many fireflies. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I live in New Zealand and have never seen a firefly, so this sounds incredible. Only a few nights ago, the most brilliant meteor ever passed over the San Francisco Bay Area, and my roommate and I were out on our backyard. This wasn't a shooting star. It was a giant glowing fireball way brighter than the full moon, and it cast shadows in our yard as it passed overhead. I'm from the Bay. I was so upset I wasn't there to see it. Back in March 2010, I took a mountain hike with my grandfather to look at a volcanic eruption up close. The trek was long and hard, it was cold, something like -10°C, and dangerous if you didn't watch your step. But I finally got up there, and lo and behold, I saw lava fall. Yeah, that's like a waterfall, except it's lava. It was beyond glorious. And don't even get me started on the red pillars of magma that the volcano farted out some 100 or 200 meters upwards pretty much constantly. It was completely indescribable. About a month afterwards, that same volcano returned to freak up air traffic in Europe and annoy reporters worldwide. Geological. The most majestic natural disaster that sounds like it was named by someone who repeatedly banged their head on the keyboard. I've seen my best friend, her mom, her maternal grandma, and her maternal great-grandmother conversing in the same room. Definitely not as traumatic as some of the other comments on here, but I highly doubt I'll see something like this again, considering how direct the line was. As for strange, I saw a woman reading a book on the back of a motorcycle once, pages flopping everywhere. When my cousin was born, our family managed to get a photo with 5 generations in it. Pretty amazing when you think about it. When I was a kid, the family and I went on a holiday to Africa. While sitting on the roof of the Land Rover, we saw a leopard kill an antelope. I don't think I'll ever see something so majestic and peaceful again. The leopard grabbed the antelope by the throat and it seemed to accept that it was its time. No blood, and hardly a struggle. Amazing. Similar to the one I posted. Africa Safari. Saw 2 lions take down a wildebeest. So raw, primal, incredible. My friend was grabbing a CD case from a table. He drops the case, and it lands on its side, and remains upright. To this day I still can't believe it happened. I once flipped a nickel and it landed on its side. 50-50 my ass. A plane flying into the World Trade Center. Live. While the possibility of it recurring is certainly possible, I doubt I'll ever catch it live. I saw it live on TV. I was 6. That's staying with me. Edit. I must have been 7, nearly 8. When I was around 10 or 11, my mum and I had gone out for a walk one evening after a snowfall in Manchester. The clouds had gone and the moon was full and shining very brightly. Our path took us alongside a golf course. As we passed a large open part of it, we noticed 2 foxes playing and wrestling with each other in the fresh snow, under the bright moonlight. It was a beautiful scene that will stick with me forever. Okay, so I saw this rat in my house, so I grabbed a broom, began to chase. It started running towards my front door and I thought, awesome, this is going to be easy. At the last second it made a sharp turn and bolted up my stairs. However, when the rat made this sharp turn, something happened. It gave birth to 2 rats. I stopped in my tracks and was absolutely dumbfounded as to what I should do next. I am willing to bet I never see that again. Actually, the rat probably casted mirror image. You are very lucky you only had a low-level mage rat on your hands. The cockpit of a plane. Dang good times as a kid. Also got a Lego airplane. I watched a man die in a waiting room at a family physician's office. He collapsed after returning from the bathroom. The physician kept saying no. Why she was unable to resuscitate him. I was there for a nasal allergy spray refill. A girl on Omegle video chat. Liar. A stark naked man run past a library full of people at top speed. I was the only one who noticed and thus, the only one laughing. Also, the wall live, and being on the films of Star Wars. Also, the wall live. I am so incredibly jealous right now. In college I saw a stripper pee on the chest of a guy heading off to Iraq. Both mutually agreed to it. Happened in front of about 30 people, including his girlfriend, who started crying seconds afterwards. We all cheered. Go University of Wisconsin. What the frick? 4 magpies are in my next door neighbor's garden, in a close-knit square, seemingly having a social occasion of some kind. Eating a few breadcrumbs was strange. It got stranger as 2 seagulls suddenly landed in between them. Then an awkward silence ensues for a few seconds and suddenly one of the seagulls moves slightly and the magpies flip their crap and start squawking some incredible battle cry of a squawk beating the ever-loving crap out of the seagulls. The fight lasted like 3 minutes and the seagulls flew away. The magpies then returned to their square. Needless to say, I was revising and bored in the upstairs bedroom of my house, and this made my day and revision worth it. Doubt I'll see that crap again. Shoulder filmed it. The Space Shuttle Columbia's launch makes me sad for so many reasons. Purple lightning. I've seen green. Creepy green. A couple of decades ago, I saw the head of security of a large casino engage in a rather vicious food fight with 9 drifter kids in the casino buffet. I was one of the drifter kids. Ocean's 10. A parasailer crashing into a mountain in Switzerland. I never ever want to see something like that again. Paraglider, unless something has gone seriously wrong with the tow rope. The Batmobile. It drove by my house once when I was 10. Nobody else saw. Bill Murray was driving. I was in the back of my dad's car going along the motorway about 3 car lengths behind and 1 lane over from a Land Rover towing a van. A sort of kebab van or a burger van. You know the type, when the van started fishtailing side to side so much that it swung 90 degrees around so it was traveling horizontally down the road. Obviously it couldn't do this for more than a split second, so it flipped and rolled, taking the Land Rover with it rolling. They both eventually stop after about 4 or 5 rolls, and my dad pulled onto the hard shoulder and told me and brother, I was about 10 and he about 8 at the time, to stay in the car as he went over to help. He came back a few minutes later slightly shook but relieved because nobody had been injured somehow. He said a 15-year-old kid was crying from the shock, but that was the worst of it. He also mentioned that running up to car was scary because he didn't know what he was about to see. That's disgusting. I saw a tire come loose off a big trailer going down I-90 over Snoqualmie Pass. They were traveling 70 mph plus, so the tire flew probably 30-40 feet in the air hauling us, and the sparks coming off the axle was unimaginable. In the Peace Corps I saw 2 donkeys fighting. They both had the other's tail in their mouth and were biting pretty hard while growling at each other. This circle standoff lasted well over 5 minutes. I remember thinking Africa. My family was driving back from vacation in South Carolina. While on the highway I hear my dad say, "Holy crap." I look up and there is a car in the air. It was going the opposite direction and drifted too close to the median. It went down the small hill in the median, hit the guardrail in between the 2 roads, and did 2 flips in the air. Well, technically barrel rolls. It landed on our lane, the closest to the median, and marked. Everyone was okay and there wasn't even a scratch on the car. Probably fricked up the suspension pretty good. Sitting on a camel in the Sahara Desert watching the sun rise over the sand dunes last week. Getting shot at. Steve Irwin. That dude's enthusiasm inspired me to get my zoology degree. The world is significantly less awesome without him. This is the Statue of Liberty, like in 1776 seconds for unlimited freedom. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.